Welcome back to the grind. I get asked a lot of questions about when to open chests and what to spend the rubies on, whether it should be gold chests or super sigil chests in the last 2 weeks of the season. In this video, we're going to talk about the drop rates of each different chest, the super sigil, bronze, and gold chests. We're going to talk about which events gold chests are better to open in and what drops more frequently in those events. And then we're going to talk about how to spend your rubies, whether you should spend them on gold chests or on super sigil chests. Now, I took some clips from some previous videos so I can consolidate all this information into one, hopefully concise video that will give you all the information that you need. This clip I took from a video where I opened 100 super sigil chests so I could see my own average compared to what I was being told. So on the top, on the bottom right, you can see the number on top is how many I get from each opening. The number on the bottom is the running total that I've gotten so far. The average for 10 chests or 5,000 rubies that I have always been told is 1,100 sigils. Now you can see that several openings are below 1,000 even, and there are some that are above 1,000, and a couple times ago you saw there was a 1,600. It really depends on when you hit those higher value sigil rewards, and the average is best hit when you spread it out over a lot of chests. Whereas if you just open 10 or 20, you may hit 2 openings that give you less than 1,000 sigils. So opening up more will get you the better average. So you can't rely on the average. Like for example, this one was 825. So you really need to open lots of chests if you really want to get closer to the average. You also need to take into consideration that the bonus chests are counted towards that average. So if you're only opening 30 or only opening 20 and you don't get to that bonus chest, then you're going to get less than the average of 1,100. Now, I spent 50,000 rubies and I got 11,425 sigils, which is 1,142 sigils for every 10 chests or 5,000 rubies that I spent. So that is a little bit over the average that people share. But you can see that over 100 chests, I was actually pretty spot on with that average. So with the new dragon lines being 31,000 sigils, if you want to complete a full line using super sigil chests, it will cost you about 140,000 rubies. But I always recommend having a little extra to spare in case you hit a point where you end up below the average. Now, this is a clip from a prior season where I opened up about 240 gold chests and about 1,600 bronze chests. At the end of the clip, I review the total resources that I got for certain categories. I didn't track every single resource, but most of them are there showing how many I got from this number of chests and then averaging it out per either 10 or 100 chests. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that every time you open a set of chests, you have a chance to get different resources. Now, if you want to get a certain type of resource and you only open 10 chests, there's a good chance you're not going to get what you want or enough of what you want. You really need to open up a larger portion, like 100 of them, in order to get a decent average of the different types of resources. I did not track the mythic fragments, but this is what I got from the 240 gold chests, about 5,000 sigils, so just over 200 sigils for every 10 that I opened, and then over 300 of each of the dragon boosts, about 14 of each for every 10, 176 heals, so about 7 for every 10, energy refills, I got 230, just about 1 per chest pretty much. Inner fires 395, so about 16 for every 10 I opened. Egg tokens 43,000, so almost 2,000 for every 10 I opened. And then timers, I got a bunch of there. I listed them all out, but it was about 8.8 days for every 10 chests that I opened. Now, I also did the same thing for the bronze chest. I opened just over 1,600 bronze chests and got 2,200 sigils, so about 137 for every 100 chests, bronze chests that I opened. I got about 283 and 314 boosts, so about 20 for every 100 I open, 20 of each. Energy refills 58, so 3.5 for every 100. Inner fires 91, so 5.7 for every 100. Healing potions 382, egg tokens 10,000, and then timers about 3.5 days for every 100. So you can see that you really got to open a lot of bronze chests to make those resources stack up. Now let's compare the chest drops from gold chests during different events. A lot of people ask, which event should you open up your gold chests in? And it really depends on what resources you need, because each event, the gold chests will drop a different variety of resources. So a lot of people say to open in PvP because that's the main way that you get PvP resources like inner fires and energy packs. And yes, this is a very beneficial way to use your gold chests. However, there is a little bit of a difference that I would suggest, and I sometimes do as well. The fortification event has increased drops of elemental embers and timers slightly, as well as black pearls, and there really isn't a good way to get these otherwise. The main benefit is the embers, because the other events don't drop embers and gold chests at all. And you can see that opening up 300 gold chests in fortification gets you 35,000 elemental embers. And that is a lot of elemental embers for most players who are constantly struggling to keep up because they built too many flax. Now, if you only have 1 or 2 flax, then you probably don't need to open up during fortification. But if you're trying to continue building 3 or 4 flax on your base, then opening in fortification may be something you need to start to consider, at least to open partial amounts of your gold chests during fortification. And if you've seen my massive stash of elemental embers, which is far more than I need at this time, that's because I've been opening for a while in fortification. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is you do get much less egg tokens when you open your gold chests in fortification, and a lot of people are struggling to keep up with egg tokens. So opening in PvP helps to round that out a little bit because you get about twice as many egg tokens. Now, if you were really only needing egg tokens, breeding would be the best place to do it because you would get more egg tokens doing that, but you would lose out on a lot of very valuable resources that you have a hard time getting otherwise, and egg tokens can be obtained in other ways, so I would not recommend to open during the breeding event. And if you would like to be able to calculate this yourself, I will post a link to the spreadsheet that I use to calculate the resources that drop from different chests in different events. So I'll put that down in the description for you if you'd like to take a look at that. Next, we're going to talk about spending your rubies on gold chests or on super sigil chests. Now, the two main recommended uses for rubies, in my opinion, are gold chests and super sigil chests. Now, gold chests are by far the most valuable overall for your ruby use as far as progressing through the game. However, there are some situations where I do feel like super sigil chests are worthwhile. For example, if you are just trying to finish your last season branch that will get you to your mythic dragon, because it's a more efficient way to get sigils, but you lose out on other rewards. Now, getting those sigils so you can spend them on a season branch will get you some other progression rewards, and I'm going to go through a comparison on that shortly. But overall, if I had enough rubies at the end of a season that I could for sure get all 3 branches just by spending my rubies on gold chests and still have enough resources at the start of the next season, then I would spend it on gold chests. The reason super sigil chests are valuable is you have to spend less rubies to get more sigils, allowing you to, for example, have more rubies when the next season starts to spend on gold chests to help you complete the discount dragon. Now I'm going to go through a few different comparison tables. Now they're not perfect comparisons and they are more rough estimates, but it can help us sort of see the difference between spending rubies on super sigil chests versus gold chests. So as you can see on the right side, that is the total rewards you get from a season branch, in this case the base boost. And on the left is the amount of prizes you will get from spending that same amount of rubies, which I've estimated to be 150,000 rubies, on gold chests. Because the season branches do also give gold chests, I've subtracted the appropriate amount from the calculation for the gold chest rewards. Now this is to compare spending rubies to complete a complete season branch versus spending them on gold chests. Because as a free-to-play player especially, as you may have seen in my Mythic free-to-play videos, you may need to spend rubies to complete a third final branch, and maybe a little extra. So here you can see the difference in resources from gold chests and the base boost branch. Now, the amount of elemental embers is a little bit higher in the gold chests, and the amount of speed ups in days is about half that of if they were from gold chests. You would get some rune dusts, but you would be missing out on about 2,800 black pearls and 5,000 sigils from those gold chests, which could then be spent on a partial seasonal line. But if you're working on your third seasonal branch and you do not have enough rubies to get all the way there by spending them on gold chests, then this is a reasonable way to get a mythic dragon, which might be worth sacrificing some of those other resources. Now let's compare opening the same amount in gold chests in fortification versus using the super sigil chests to complete a rider line. That gives more gold chests, so I subtracted more from the gold chest calculation. This rider line would give you comparable amount of egg tokens, but less than half the speed ups, as well as half the amount of embers, no black pearls, and no sigils in addition. So in spending the rubies on the super sigil chests, you are sacrificing a fair amount of progression resources, specifically embers and timers. Now, comparing gold chests in PvP this time, which a lot of people open in PvP because they need the PvP resources. So if you look at the egg tokens, you get 3 times the egg tokens from opening in PvP and compared to the dragon line. The dragon line gives you comparable amounts of mythic fragments. You still get significantly less days and speed ups. You don't get the black pearls, and of course you don't get the PvP resources. Now you don't get any rune dust from the gold chests, which you do get from the dragon line and the base boost line, I think, but I don't think any in the rider line. So you can see that by spending your rubies on super sigil chests, you do sacrifice a fair amount of progression resources. It's not as much as I expected once you account for the rewards in the season lines. And if you consider that this is enabling you to get a mythic dragon, then it might be worth the sacrifice for you. However, if this is just to get a complete second line or an additional fourth line, then it really is not as worth it unless you really need that last key or you're 1 or 2 lines away from getting the complete rider, then that might be beneficial for you. But the increased resources from opening gold chests instead is enough so that I'm working as hard as I can to shift all my ruby spending into gold chests while making sure I don't overspend and run out of the ability to get a mythic dragon. And farming gold chests for a little bit each day is a good way to help increase the amount of sigils you get from chests, as well as allowing me to open more gold chests in fortification because I'm getting PvP resources from the bronze chests. So I hope this video was helpful in understanding the value of the rubies and where to spend them in your situation.